I'm Johnny Lewis. I want to thank you for viewing my program highlight video as I share about the highlights of my practicum experience here at Fort Hays. First of all, these are some district artifacts, some opportunities that I had to participate in district administrative leadership through shadowing different district leaders or being invited to participate in district activities as an administrative representative from my school. One of the things that our school is working on and our district is currently working on is diversity and engagement for students of all kinds in our classrooms. We're asking questions about the ethics of staffing and whether and what kind of choices we can make to have a more diverse staff, a staff that looks more like our student bodies in our district, in particular in our school. We have a growing number of ethnic minority students, a significant number of Spanish-speaking students, and yet all of our faculty, with the exception of one African-American woman, they're all Caucasian faculty. Our students who are Spanish-speaking don't have translators, for example, when they come to parent-teacher night, those sorts of things. And so I was asked to be our school's administrative representative at a meeting at the district to discuss and to listen in on a presentation related to diversity and engagement and the improvement process that our district is proposing. You can click the link here to view that. Also, I've been part of a number of meetings. We have several students in our building who are part of foster care system, and so I've been invited to be the administrative representative on meetings for those students when our district meets with KVC and other different organizations in order to consider ways to transport students who live out of district or who have moved out of district, but for whom it is best for them to stay in the school in order to provide some stability for them. I've also was able to be part of the district salary negotiations meetings to go take notes and then to report back to others in our school about what's happening in relation to those negotiations that began last month. I've been to some administrative hearings and disciplinary hearings for students as administrative representative. I was able to observe some IEP meetings and to provide some feedback for other district teachers in relation to just feedback and to observe and able to provide some evaluation of first-year teachers conducting IEP meetings. Probably the most meaningful experience I had in my practicum was the time that I spent at Carl Bruce Middle School in Kansas City, Kansas. All of the schools I've ever served have been Caucasian, suburban schools in the suburbs of larger cities, and I have a friend who is principal at Carl Bruce Middle School in Kansas City, Kansas, who invited me to come and spend some time shadowing her, Principal Janelle Waters, who is the principal for 6th grade students, the youngest group that's in that building. In this particular school, there are more than 1,000 middle school students. And so one of their unique challenges is the fact that they are understaffed for that number of students, and they're constantly trying to figure out how they can spread their staff around in order to keep their school secure and in order to make sure that students are safe as they travel from class to class. In the morning, I began my time with a debrief with Principal Waters, and where we spent time analyzing the mission and vision and improvement plans for the district. We spent time talking about the trauma-informed means of student discipline that they use in their district when they advocate for students, the way that they communicate with families, and the way that they consider behavior issues in light of different cultural differences that exist in the school. And some of the socioeconomic differences that exist in the school. One of the things that I first experienced when I arrived at Carl Bruce, Mrs. Waters met me in the parking lot and invited me to get in her car, and we went to pick up students in her car. Because of the district's economic shortfall, they're not able to provide transportation to students unless they live more than 1.5 miles away from the school. And so this was a colder day in April. It still felt like the winter. And while I was there, she explained that really impacts attendance because they have students who walk more than 30 minutes, a mile and a half, as you can see here on the map on the screen, to get to school. So in the winter, many students choose not to come, or they choose to come late. So I hopped in Mrs. Waters' car and we went driving to pick up students in the neighborhood whose parents had contacted her and said that their students needed help getting to school because of the weather and because they had to work at different times and couldn't drop them off at school. One of the things I was really impressed with at Carl Bruce was the way that they were using data from their walkthroughs and assessments. There was a large room with whiteboards all around where they were assessing student learning, talking about pre-test and post-test, identifying which students fell into high-risk categories or low-risk categories and how they could move those students through that time. One of the things that I got to observe at Carl Bruce, I mentioned earlier at my own school that we have a significant number of Spanish-speaking students, and we don't have any Spanish-speaking staff other than the Spanish teacher for the school. I was watching in the office as a mother arrived who was Spanish-speaking, and they had a secretary in the office who was able to speak Spanish as well. And so between the two of them, they were able to discern that her daughter, who struggled with her English, who's newer to our country, did not understand that she was receiving discipline referrals for skipping a class. When she was going to the counselor's office, she didn't realize she was supposed to be checking in. And so largely this communication language issue was leading to discipline for the daughter. And because of the things that they've placed at Carl Bruce and the way that they foster two-way communication with families, the way that they value that in such a way, I was able to see that situation be de-escalated and for that student to feel more safe in her school. One of the things I mentioned earlier was the number of students that are at Carl Bruce. There's a significant number of discipline referrals because they don't have enough staff to manage every corner of the school building in between classes. They keep a small number of students in the cafeteria and run them beginning at 10 o'clock all the way through the day. Administrators and one paraprofessional are responsible for managing the cafeteria, each cafeteria group that comes in into the cafeteria. So while at some other more affluent schools where teachers may be doing things on their lunch break, or there might be paraprofessionals assigned to the cafeteria, budgetary constraints at Carl Bruce meant that the administrators actually took turns standing in the cafeteria all day long, managing how many students were going into the bathroom, making sure that it wasn't overcrowded, making sure that students were safe as they passed through the cafeteria on their way in passing period. And then in my time with Mrs. Waters, she explained to me the instructional evaluation method that they used as very rigorous. They have a goal of being a top 5 district in the country, and so they have an extensive framework for how to measure that. And then I got to spend the afternoon doing walkthroughs with Mrs. Waters, which is something she does every day. She has an app on her phone that the school pays for, which guides her in how to make quick notes about what she sees. And I was really touched by the relationships that Mrs. Waters had with students in the school as she walked through their classes. For my secondary artifacts, which is my primary area of emphasis, my mentor administrator was Leah Vomhoff, who's the associate principal at our school. Mrs. Vomhoff gave me a lot of opportunities for leadership within the building and just presented me with a lot of ideas. The two of us met regularly together. She encouraged me to try different forms of supervision and gave me some experiences that I might consider that would help me to experience some of the things that administrators experience throughout the day. One of the opportunities that I was lucky to have this year was that our school is currently in the process of considering the mission, vision, and value statement for the school and in talking about school improvement processes. And so from the beginning of the school year, I've been able to be part of meetings with the administrative team, with the building leadership team for the school, and then to be part of a professional development where we invited staff to give feedback. This was the second opportunity staff was given the opportunity to give feedback and to discuss potential mission, vision, and value statements. And so for me, I was able to lead a small group in that discussion and then to invite the faculty to come and make sticky notes on different places, places that they approved of messages and places that they would like to see messages improved. I was able to do a training for paraprofessionals related to behavior management in our district. This is a group of paraprofessionals who were part of that training. This was early in the school year. We were still masking. And then there was online behavior training, and then I led commentary and follow-up afterward. One of the things that we're working on in our school is restorative justice, and so I was able to lead paraprofessionals and school therapeutic support staff as we went through restorative justice training together. I was able to lead conversations. It was an online training where we stopped and were invited to lead and to facilitate those conversations among our staff after we had participated in different online trainings. One of the great experiences of my year was being able to be the administrative sponsor for the first ever DeSoto High School Unified Special Olympics Club. This year we recruited peer and IEP students to meet monthly. They learned games together. We recruited staff to help lead bocce ball, coach, a unified bowling coach, a PE teacher who organizes their monthly activities. And as the administrative sponsor, I did communication and announcements, made sure that we developed social media and other things. And kind of the highlight of our year was that we won the very first competition we participated in, which was the Unified Move Challenge for the Kansas City Metro. One of the other things I was invited to do as part of our administrative team this year was to lead an equity inclusion team at our school, which also corresponds to the district equity inclusion conversation that I was able to be a part of. And so our team read the book Not Light But Fire together, met for monthly book club to talk through those, and so I led those meetings and was really impacted by a lot of what we read. We talked about how to have conversations related to race in the classroom. Our school is currently in the process of curriculum alignment through PLCs, and so I was able to lead some of those groups to evaluate in partnership with teachers the different curricula that they use and other support systems that they used as they developed systems of learning for students and aligned those things, and then considered assessment data as they reevaluated what they were doing. One of the things that I was a part of was being able to recommend the Reconnecting Youth curriculum adaptation. Our administrative team has been talking about ways to reach at-risk students who struggle with addiction or significant mental health issues but may not have IEPs. Given my background in emotional behavioral special education students, this felt like a good task for me to be a part of. And so we'll be adopting this curriculum next year for at-risk students in our school. As part of our equity team, one of the things we did was we interviewed students and assessed our curriculum based on their experiences, our minority students' experience in class. We had difficult conversations about race and about the fact that most of our curriculum is Eurocentric, that students of color don't hear very many things about their own histories and the history of their people unless they're negative. And so we were able to have some hard conversations together as a staff as part of that. As part of that, I had to do communication with parents related to the students who were doing interviews. I also participated as our administrative representative in KVC case planning meetings. These are wraparound meetings for foster students where outside caseworkers and inside school caseworkers work together to develop a plan for students. As part of our equity and inclusion team, we also held a staffing discussion within our school, just like our district is having. Our school, we also had a conversation about staffing and what we can do to recruit a more diverse staff and to consider our own hiring practices as a school. And then I was able to participate in associate principal interviews to be part of the team. All of our administrative team was a part of those interviews, as well as some faculty representatives. And so we spent 4 hours interviewing a variety of representatives. In all of these experiences, one of the things that has really stood out to me is the opportunity for relationships with students that exist for administrators when we do walkthroughs, when we're really part of classes, and when we're invested in those. That's kind of a new insight for me and my hope for being an administrator. And so through the practicum, as part of my reflection, the thing I probably gained the most was a desire to really have significant relationships with students as an